Welcome, everyone. This is the Occupy Fantasy Football Podcast, a special Super Bowl edition focusing on betting the Super Bowl, props, sides, totals, everything you need to know to make profitable wagers. For Super Bowl Sunday between the Chiefs and the 49ers, I am Brian Jester, co-founder here at Occupy Fantasy, your co-host here today. If you're watching this on YouTube, in the video version, you see our pretty faces. Give us a subscribe and like. We'd appreciate that. If you're listening to this in your favorite podcast app, go ahead and subscribe. That way you get our latest podcast directly to your feed. I'm joined today for our Super Bowl props betting episode with Moose, our Chief Data Officer here at Occupy Fantasy. What's up, Moose?
Hey man, how's it going?
I am good. It's the best time of the year. And of course, every year around this time, we have to get our resident betting and props expert, Mike Carey, MC in the DMV 32, who will be out there in Vegas with us next week. Mike, what's up, man?
Hey, how's it going, Brian?
So we've been doing this props episode 3 years in a row now. We've been going out to Vegas since what? Mike Carey, what? You've been out there since what? 2011, 2012?
Yeah, this will be the ninth year in a row.
Ninth year in a row. Pretty incredible. So lots of experience on this panel, and we're here. We have not had a losing Super Bowl betting season in the 9 years that we've been doing this. And this isn't some tout opportunity where we're telling you 9-0 over the last 9 years. No, the Super Bowl is really one of the most profitable times to bet in sports betting. And it's for a couple of reasons. So let's talk about that first. Moose, I think number one, the reason that the Super Bowl is so profitable is the sheer number of opportunities that we have compared to a regular game.
Yeah, totally agree with you on that. I mean, you might be lucky. I know, and since sports betting has been legalized more, sports books have been putting up some player props on like the big events, big games, but it's only a handful. Now with the Superbook out in Vegas putting out 300 plus, William Hill putting out hundreds and hundreds, and even the new book like Circa has I think 50 or so props. It's just the sheer volume of it. That's just incredible.
Yeah, so many opportunities to pick and choose, where like you said, on a normal game you may not have 500 opportunities to place a wager. Yeah. Now you can research each one, or like us, we can do the research for you and tell you the best ones to play. But Mike, it's not just that, it's that the Super Bowl is one of the very rare events where it's catered to the public, and we can take advantage of that.
Absolutely. I mean, you're going to be seeing lines that the book probably is fading the public, waiting for that over money to come in, the yes money to come in, all that kind of will there be a safety? Although that hit 3 or 4 years in a row, we haven't seen safety in a long time. I can't even remember watching an NFL game this year where I saw safety. So, but I'm sure enough, those lines coming out to Vegas, the people in Vegas certainly are looking for that get rich quick bet, and the big time plus money odds bets are going to be really popular, even though they're highly unlikely, and you're not going to be seeing much value there at all.
No, I mean, people when they come out, whether they're in Vegas or they're betting on their mobile app or betting with their friends, whatever it may be, they're rooting for scoring. They're rooting for big paydays. So you're not going to see people laying minus 400 for someone not to score a touchdown. You're not going to see someone laying minus 700 for an extra point to not be missed. So the books shade the money that way, shade the lines that way, and we can hop in and take advantage, especially later in the week as all the money comes in and influences those lines even more. So like last year, we put out our Super Bowl props guide for the first time to the public. And for lines that were actually available, we ended up, I know us in our group, we ended up plus 20 units on our props. So if you bet $10 per prop, you ended up plus $200 for the day. An incredible ROI, and it's been like that most years. And so this Occupy Props Guide, just so everyone who is listening knows, it is actually free this year for everyone in our Discord channel. So our Discord is our chat where our Twitch Prime subscribers get free access. That's the only way to get access to the Discord. We posted in there for free this year, so if you're a Twitch Prime subscriber, go get access. If you're a Discord member, go to the Super Bowl channel and you can get access. And if you don't have access, Just go to twitch.tv/OccupyFantasy. Subscribe to us. You can do so for free if you have Amazon Prime, and you'll get access to the Discord and our free Super Bowl props guide. All right, so we're going out to Vegas. A handful of states have this legalized, sports betting, that is. Mike Carey, what do you do if you're in a state? I mean, if you realize that this is one of the most profitable betting opportunities there is of the year, what do you do if you're in a state that's not legal yet?
Hope you can hop on a plane to Nevada. No, I mean, a lot of states, especially here on the East Coast, in the Mid-Atlantic where I am, even in DC, it's a quick drive to even if you're looking for legalized sports betting. That's probably your best bet. I mean, most states, it seems like every week, especially now with the new year coming and new legislative sessions have started, a lot of different states have added sports betting and even mobile sports betting to their legislative docket. So it's likely that you're within driving distance of some place where you can place a bet, unless maybe Oklahoma, Nebraska, Kansas. If you're in those states, it looks like you're going to have to hop a plane to Chicago.
Yeah. All right, Moose, let's say you can't drive, you can't fly. Is there any other way that you can take advantage of this, do you think?
Well, I just want to go back really quick. Talking about driving to a legal state. A lot of sports books for the Super Bowl, they're doing promotions. You might get a $500 free bet, 25% deposit bonus. So it may even be worth to drive 2, 3, 4 hours, deposit at 2, 3, 4, 5 books, get an extra $1,000. That covers your gas and hotel right there.
That's true too. That's a good point. Like, if it's anywhat feasible at all, this is actually one of the opportunities where you should be driving to a state to place bets. And whether it's you go up on the Saturday before, Sunday morning before, maybe not Sunday because it might be a little crowded as we've known, but Friday or Saturday before, take that trip. If you're listening to this podcast, you're likely as big of a degenerate as we think you are. So it's probably worth making the trip if you're listening to this. My thought too, so maybe you're not that degenerate and maybe you're just more of a casual player. You still want to make a couple bucks from this. Set up a props pick contest, whatever Super Bowl party you go to. There are sheets online you can download, and a lot of the times, there are going to be some props on these generated sheets that are true coin flips, like literally the coin flip, heads or tails. But there are also going to be tons of props that we talk about in this episode, some of our favorite props that the public always gets wrong. They're always on one side. You can get a big advantage. So if you're looking to make a handful of bucks and you're okay with profiting off your friends and family as you should be, then you can go ahead and print this out, go to your Super Bowl party, say, hey guys, I got this prop sheet idea. Let's all put in $5-10, winner take all, and that can be your best bet too, Mike.
Absolutely. I mean, this is coming from a family, though, the Jester family, that will bet on who's going to wake up and get out of bed first in the morning.
That's true. Yeah, you have to. Yeah,
daily pool.
Realize your territory here with who's talking. So, oh man. All right. So we give you some ways to get some action down on these bets we're about to talk about. So if you have any questions about that, you can certainly hit us up on Twitter at Occupy Fantasy. All right, guys. Let's move to this game. Chiefs and 49ers. Probably one of the more exciting matchups we could have gotten, I think. So. Moose, your first thoughts, early line movements. We're recording this Sunday morning, a week before the Super Bowl. What are your first thoughts? What are some of the early line movements that we've seen from sportsbooks that have been reporting numbers?
So, everything on the over. It seems like every single thing I've said was on the over.
No way.
I know, right? Opened around 51.5-ish, 51 in some places. Now that's all the way up to 55 at some points.
So three and a half point jump on the total in the first week
on the game of this big of nature, which is crazy.
Yeah.
About last time I checked, about 84% of the tickets and 90% of the money was on the over at the Westgate Superbook and over on the FanDuel Sportsbook across the country. 71% of tickets and 70% of money was on the over at FanDuel Sportsbooks.
That's insane. And actually, I was on a podcast earlier this week and was talking about how I think it was a South Point in Las Vegas. As of Tuesday or Wednesday, so 3 days after the original line was posted, they had just one ticket on the under compared to like 75 on the over. Mike, I know, in general, we see overs, especially in the Super Bowl, being bet early and often. But this level was kind of surprising to me because when you and I first spoke to each other Sunday night, what's your gut thought? What do you think about this Super Bowl? I think we both said San Francisco in the under.
Yeah, I'm really surprised. I mean, not that I want to say that we are true sharps at all, but still, I'm very surprised that we haven't seen any sharp money come in. I was just looking at Sports Insight's if there were any steam moves on either the under or the 49ers. There haven't been any steam moves yet on the side, and on the under, or excuse me, on the total, it's still 3-1 steam moves on the over. So sharps have not jumped in on this either, which I'm pretty surprised about, meaning they're probably waiting for some number. I think it's 55. I like 55 at the under, and then if somehow the 49ers get up to +1.5, I think they're going to just get flooded with teasers on the 49ers and the total either way. So I'm sure the books are hesitant in some way to move this too much more, because that under and that 49er money is on its way, I think.
It's definitely coming. Plus, I mean, with this big of a move on the total, that exposes them to a huge middle potentially. If you got in early on the over 51.5, I mean, they can't move it much higher because you get some people 4 or 5 point middles, and that's pretty dangerous too. So. But our initial thoughts definitely the under. I'm not sure how much longer we're going to wait on this. Moose, how high do you conceivably see this total going?
I was actually going to ask that same question. The more and more books are popping up. I'm looking at books specifically in Nevada here, going to 55. I liked 55, and now I'm thinking, not even the majority of the public's out in Vegas yet.
It's true.
They usually come out later in the week. So I think it might even get to 55.5. If that happens, I don't see it being there for more than 5 minutes.
Yeah, I agree. If you're going to be out in Vegas, first of all, come say hi.
Yes.
But if you're going to be out in Vegas, I would be, every time I run to the bathroom, every time I run to the gift shop, make sure you pass by the sports book. And if you're seeing any 55.5 would be great. I mean, if this gets up to 56 and you got 8 pure touchdowns needed in the Super Bowl, where the number one passing defense is playing, I mean, I don't care who they're playing against. I mean, the 49ers have shown that. I mean, they've had some games where that were shootouts, and I'm thinking of the Saints game, but for the most part, the 49ers have been able to run their defense the way that they've wanted to all season, and to see 8 touchdowns up there is shocking, especially when they just passed 8 times in the championship game.
Yeah, I mean, that's a big narrative too, but also realize that both that game and the Chiefs game went over in the conference championship, and that's fresh on a lot of people's minds, and I think that's driving this overaction as well. All right.
Absolutely. Recency bias in the Super Bowl is huge.
Yeah. Recency bias always, and of course, in the biggest stage in NFL, of course, it's going to be there as well. All right, let's get to the good stuff. Let's talk about some props now. And literally every year we come on this show and we talk about the same props, the same game props, the same 10 or 12 we always look for that we know are going to be flooded or shaded in the wrong direction because of the public's opinion. So, Mike Carey, in our Super Bowl props guide, we talked about not only what the true odds should be, not only what the line you should look for is, but most importantly, perhaps, when you should look to make that bet, whether that's as soon as possible, whether that's whenever it's available, or on game day. And how do we know this? How do we know, Mike, that when to bet these props every single year based on what the public's going to do?
Well, I mean, we've, again, this is our 9th time doing this, so we've seen some trends where, first of all, just anecdotally, people standing in line don't want to bet against scoring. They're always thinking like, everybody's going to have a touchdown. So you'll walk up to a guy, he's got his sheet, and you can see over his shoulder that he's just got yes circled for every single wide receiver for each team.
I do just want to interject really quick, Mike, on that. I was going to say, if you want the greatest time of your life, you don't even have to bet. Just go out to Vegas and stay in the sports book and listen to some of the reasons why people want to bet the way they weren't going to bet for the Super Bowl. It's incredible.
Oh,
absolutely. So like those that type of better is going to be plentiful. So if you're looking to bet an under, wait. If you're looking to bet an over, you probably should have already taken it. because that number is probably only going to get higher unless there's some significant sharp action that pushes it to the under. When it comes to the situational betting, 3 unanswered scores or what team scores first. That's all about knowing what the value is based on your own research, and then watching the books move and detecting a trend.
Yes, exactly. And a lot of times, Moose, and I think what we found the value in these game props specifically, not necessarily the player props, but the game props, a lot of times, and correct me if I'm wrong here, but the books are making these lines, let's say no defensive touchdown. Will there be 3 unanswered scores? Will there be a score in the last 2 minutes of the first half? A lot of times they're making this line based on what the total is, not necessarily the team's tendencies throughout the season.
Correct. Yep. I mean, there's calculators online that you put in the spread and the total, and it'll tell you what the quote unquote fair value line should be of those type of game props. And I think that's kind of where they started out, and then however money comes in, they adjust the line.
Yeah, which is crazy because I know it's a season is a pretty small sample size, but with 2 teams, you have 36 games of data to work with, and teams, whether it's coaching or personnel or general strategy, play games differently depending on the situation. And a lot of times, some of these bets go way more than what the fair value should be because that's how these teams play. So here are a couple bets really quickly. Mike, first one we always look at: no defensive or special teams touchdown. Public comes in, always sees plus 150, plus 180, plus 200. They get to root for a defensive touchdown, especially in a high-scoring game. They like betting that. And Mike, as long as we can avoid the dreaded second half kickoff touchdown, that's normally a great bet for us.
Yeah, I mean, if there's one bet that I think I'm going to sweat the most this year, it'll be this one. And honestly, when you sent me the sheet and I saw it, I was like, I didn't tell him yet that I'm hating this bet this year, but I know I'm going to make it. It seems like there could be something, especially with the kickoff. I think both returners are pretty good, and you have some players on the defensive side, especially for San Francisco, that can cause some havoc there, that could force a score. I'm a little nervous, especially with Mahomes, the way that he moves around the pocket and stays with the ball a little loose. He doesn't really hold it away or even hold it with 2 hands before he's throwing. So I'm a little nervous about that, but of course we're going to be on it. And watch sadly as our under and this bet is killed by a return touchdown.
Yeah, always a killer when it does happen. I'm actually a little worried about the Chiefs side with Jimmy G's interceptable pass rate and McCole Hardman in the return game. Robbie Gould doesn't actually kick a lot of touchbacks. McCole Hardman doesn't let kickers kick touchbacks. He'll take them out, so that could be the guy to watch for that could ruin this bet. But again, our odds are around minus 350 of what this really should be, but we'll be able to get it probably, minus 250, minus 230, minus 220. We'll get it way lower than that. Moose, what about 3 unanswered scores? So for people who aren't familiar with Super Bowl betting or even betting in general, this sounds like a weird bet, but will one team score 3 times in a row? And that seems pretty crazy to think about, right? But it happens super often in NFL games, and especially in a game like this one.
Yeah, I mean, literally every time I'm out in Vegas, and where I'm talking to people in the sportsbook, whatever, and I'll ask them, what do you think about this? And there's like, no, dude, there's no way a team can score three times in a row. And I'm just like, all right, well, it happens like almost all the time.
Literally like 75% of NFL games it happens.
Yeah, I mean, our true odds on that are minus 300. And so I think that'll get bet down some. You should be able to get probably, I would say, maybe 160 if you line shop.
Yeah, that's one of the bets where you wait until probably the last possible moment because, like you said, the public is going to be betting that there won't be 3 scores in a row. Mike Carey, this one always seems crazy, but the shortest touchdown, over under 1.5 yards, always value on the under there.
So yeah, I mean, just like with 3 unanswered scores, this one with shortest touchdown, I think these are your 2 closest ATM bets where I'm putting money in and getting more money out.
Yep.
every year, especially now. With now you have challengeable pass interference. Like, I mean, this is the best situation for this bet in the history of the NFL, where you might get a pass interference in the end zone and a 1-yard touchdown run.
Yeah, that's true too.
I think, I think that now for this bet, are the odds adjusted based off that challengeable pass interference? Probably not. You're probably just seeing the same odds as normal. But I think this is one where it's like, well, the public is looking at only touchdowns at the goal line don't really happen. I don't know why, but they feel like the touchdowns at the goal line just don't happen, because it's like when you're watching Red Zone, this is a 5-second clip and Scott Hansen is okay. They went in again.
Yeah.
Not a big deal. Instead of like, a 70-yard bomb to Tyreek Hill. Oh boy, that's what they'll remember. So yeah, I think this is a great bet, especially with pass interference the way it is. Both teams are going to be looking to pass at the goal line with tight end options the way they are. So there could be a pass interference in the end zone, and that's going to get you that 1-yard run in. And both Damian Williams and Raheem Mostert have scored in every playoff game. So they have no problem running in the end zone.
That's true too. Yeah, definitely. And teams they tighten up around the goal line, right? So like, if it's first and goal from the 2, it's very likely they get just 1 yard, and then a lot of times teams end up on the 1 yard line more often than you would initially think. All right, most one last bet that we always look at that the public for whatever reason loves, for a group of people that like scoring, you wouldn't think they would always be on the side of yes, both teams will make a 33-yard or longer field goal, which is a really weird bet. I don't know how that originated, but it's always there every year. But we're on the side pretty much no, both teams will not kick a 33 or yard longer field goal, and it's the same way this year.
Yeah, again, it goes back to public one scoring. It could be a 67-yard field goal. They're like, dude, they got to kick it. Like they just want any opportunity to root for any type of scoring. That's just how the public works on Super Bowl.
That's true.
So just wait. That's one of those more game day bets. Just kind of let them keep building it up, and then we hit the other side right before.
Yeah, that one you can pretty much almost get even odds on if you wait till game day. So that's a great bet to certainly be waiting on. All right, let's jump over to some player props, unless there's any other game props you guys want to talk about.
Can I just make one point real quick?
Yeah, let's hear it.
That if you're out in Vegas, Jersey, or anywhere that has multiple books, I cannot stress enough about line shopping and also like middling and arbitrage opportunities. There's already a handful that I've already seen that you can bet both sides and don't have to worry about any opportunity because you got plus odds on both sides. Or you can try a middle. I've seen some 10, 20-yard middles out there across different books. So definitely keep an eye on that.
It's very reasonable to expect, if you don't want to sweat 50 props or even 10 props, very reasonable to you to do your due diligence over the next week. Find plus odds on an over, plus odds on an under on the same bet at 2 different sports books. Max bet both sides if you can find the money. Sit back, enjoy the Super Bowl, and collect your couple $100, and you have your profit for the year. Like, that's a very reasonable outcome if you do your due diligence. Okay, let's jump to player props. Guys we like specifically this year, we had a fantastic year playing player props in the Patriots and Rams Super Bowl. Unders were very good for all of us, me especially. So, Mike Carey, what's your first thought here? Players that we're looking at, that we're looking to target specifically.
Well, I think you have to like both tight ends. In both situations, the defenses have outstanding secondaries, but you have linebackers covering these. Really, both are all-pro tight ends. Both are the best in the AFC and the NFC. So I like the tight ends over, completions and yards. I think both of those are solid bets.
Yeah, I love that. Our initial Super Bowl model has overs galore for both Kittle and Kelsey. Moose, one I'd like, and I know it's available at the Westgate out in Vegas. I assume it'll be available at other books. I haven't personally seen it. I haven't looked too hard, to be honest. But it's, will George Kittle have a rushing attempt? And in the Super Bowl, we see the teams pull out all the stops to get one final victory to hoist the championship trophy. And I think this could be an opportunity because Kittle, despite only playing in, I believe it was 12 games this year, maybe it was a little more. No, I think it was definitely more, 16 games. I think it was 16. He still had a rushing attempt in 5 of those 16 games, so roughly 33% chance. But the odds are way more in our favor compared to the opening line, right?
Yeah, I mean, Westgate opened it at plus 375. I honestly don't know how the public will bet on this, just because maybe it's just one of those exotic, weird things that people want to root for that's plus money.
Yeah.
So I think that might be one of the bets you're going to have to get down ASAP. But yeah, when I first saw it, I was like, why would they do that? And I look back at the box score, and like you said, he's had rushing attempts before. Really quirky, but I do like it.
Yeah, I mean, you don't think of a tight end getting a rushing attempt, but a lot of times he'll line up at fullback or kind of a little end around option play. Like there's ways they get him the ball because he's a playmaker. They want to get him the ball, so I could see that being a play here. And I really like the huge plus money. Very rarely are we on the huge plus money side, but I think this is definitely an opportunity. All right, Mike, let's talk about the San Francisco running back situation because I think this is going to be key not only for DFS, but for the game as well. And I'm just not so sure, and it's really tough to figure out how this is going to break down, but I'm not so sure that we see Raheem Mostert get 80-90% of the touches like he did in the conference championship.
No, we have to assume that there's going to be some regression. That was just the run worked early, and they ran it until Green Bay decided to stop them, and they couldn't. And I think that that is an outlier. You look at what Kansas City was able to do to Derrick Henry. They were able to figure out some way to at least shut down the run game, at the expense of maybe allowing some options to open up in the passing game that really Tennessee wasn't able to take advantage of. So I don't think Mostert is going to get that type of load again, and to be one dimensional like that in the Super Bowl. I think that just lends itself to disaster. I'm expecting Garoppolo to get more than 8 passes.
Really going out on a limb there, Mike.
Yeah. This is the content that you guys have been waiting for. Garoppolo over 8 pass attempts.
Hard hitting analysis.
Yeah, hit that hard. He's gonna have 7. Yeah, no, I expect, especially if Coleman plays and they have 2 options at running back, I think they're going to, use them in different ways. Again, Coleman likes to get involved with the pass game as well. So, no, I don't think Mostert is going to have that type of legendary performance that he had in the NFC Championship.
Yeah, so Coleman left the conference championship game early. That was a big reason for Mostert's dominance in production. That was his season high, career high in snap share, season high, career high in running back opportunity share. That's just not something that the San Francisco offense likes to do. Mostert, even when he was the lead back in the final 6 weeks of the regular season, was getting 50-60% of the snaps, 50-60% of the opportunity. And he was playing 8 to 12 special team snaps per game. This guy's a key special teams player. It's a big reason why he made the roster to start the season. And I think, last week he had just 2 special team snaps. That's not something they want to do on a consistent basis. I think they're going to get back to their general 60-30-10 split, 50-40-10 split, whatever it may be. And Coleman sounds like he will suit up. We'll have to see, monitor it throughout the week. But if he can't go, Matt Breida can step in, and Jeff Wilson Jr., the number 4 running back, can step in. But Moose, I was surprised. 2 things surprised me when we saw the lines open Thursday night. One was that William Hill and a couple of these other books actually put lines on Tevin Coleman's props. And 2, I was surprised at how high they put Mostert's rushing attempts, yards. Will he score a touchdown? But I guess the recency bias was there for a lot of people.
Yeah, I mean, definitely recency bias there. I have no idea why William Hill put out odds for the RB2, but I guess they wanted to be the first ones to do it. I'm curious to see what the lines are now. Can't get access to the mobile app until we're actually in Nevada for some reason. But yeah, I'm really curious to see how people bet that.
Yeah, because they put a line on Matt Breida's rushing attempts. They put a line on Tevin Coleman's rushing attempts. And if Coleman doesn't play, Matt Breida's projections go way up, we assume. And if Coleman does play, Breida's projections go way down. So that opened them to a lot of potential liability. I thought that was interesting.
Yeah.
All right, last player prop I want to talk about specifically is Jimmy Garoppolo. Will he complete his first pass? And a lot of times we'll see this at minus 200. I think books usually use a player's completion percentage for the year. However, as we know, teams script their first few plays, and especially a guy like Kyle Shanahan really scripts his first couple of plays and puts his offense in a great position to succeed. And it's a big reason why they have a big first quarter advantage over a lot of teams, which we haven't talked about yet, but San Francisco first quarter betting is a great opportunity. But if you actually look, this surprised me, Mike, is that when we look at their games this year, Jimmy G, Patrick Mahomes, if you asked 100 people who completed their first pass more often, probably 99% of people would say Patrick Mahomes. But if you actually look over the course of this year, which is really interesting to me, is that Patrick Mahomes actually completed his first pass just 56% of the time, whereas Jimmy G completed his first pass 83% of the time, and that's way higher than at minus 200 or whatever we'll get.
Yeah.
Wow. I mean, it's kind of shocking that people are still. I mean, if that's the answer that we're gonna, and I'm sure it is, that we would expect to get from people standing in line with 3 or 4 different sheets at the sportsbook in Vegas.
Yeah.
Because Mahomes and the Chiefs have had kind of lackadaisical starts, even in just the playoff games. They haven't really blown the doors off in their early drives, and whereas we see Kyle Shanahan. The worry with him is when he has to go off script and improvise, not when he's scripting those early plays. He's normally able to kind of build some momentum. So I'm not surprised at all that Jimmy G, who's more of a drop back passer and going through his reads than Mahomes, has that early completion percentage. And personally, I love these types of instant win or instant loss bets. You can get some early action, so you start feeling either pretty good or pretty bad about.
You have not lived. You have not lived until you're the only person at your party or at the sports book cheering like you just won everything when a 1-yard pass to the fullback is completed on the first play of the game. Let me tell you that.
Yeah, I 100% agree, and I was actually going to loop back around to that Kittle rushing attempt prop. First of all, for real, I think those types of props, and we've seen in previous games, I think with Ted Ginn getting a rushing attempt early, those props seem too good to be true, and they normally are tied in with somebody's kind of insight into the game plan for either team. So I like this as well, and. Yeah, I will be spiking my drink or face chugging moose when Kittle gets that one rush attempt.
Yes, cannot wait for Kittle to get that attempt. And just to go back to the point about San Francisco starting early, whether that's design plays on play action. We know Shanahan's a master play designer. Big reason why Jimmy G completes his first pass so often. Our early projections in our Super Bowl model have San Francisco with a 9-5 first quarter lead. Now, granted, they can't score 5 points, but you understand it's a projection. But big advantage for San Francisco, and I think we can get them in the first quarter at plus money to be leading as a pretty good bet. Moose, any other player props you want to talk about before we move on?
No, I think that's pretty much it. You kind of covered it. I don't want to give away too much from the guide.
Yeah, that's a good point. All right, got to keep something under wraps. All right, guys, let's talk about MVP. A lot more books are able to take MVP bets now thanks to legislation, so thank you, lawmakers, for that. MVP picks. I like, we talked about George Kittle a few times here. You can get him as high as 20-1. I think even down to 15-1 is reasonable, but in a game where we project the tight ends to do very well, in a game where their quarterback likely won't have a lot of volume or enough volume to be the MVP, and I think where they could split the backfield workload, I love Kittle at 20-1. And in the case that Jimmy G does get enough volume, if you can get him as high as plus 350, plus 400, those are two guys I really like from that side. Moose, what about you? Any MVP bets that you're looking for?
Maybe this is super square of me, but I do like Mahomes. Circa out in Las Vegas had plus 125. I think that's absolutely fantastic. I think it should be closer to the money line on the game
Yep.
because regardless of what happens, if the Chiefs win, how they play, Mahomes is going to be the MVP.
Yeah, exactly. If you can get plus odds on that, I think it's a great bet. What about you, Mike?
No, I agree with that. The quarterback for the favorite, I think that's a good bet for the MVP because you're getting a better line. At least sprinkle. If you're going to be betting Chiefs money line, get some action down on Mahomes
Yep.
MVP. I also like what you said about Kittle. If Kittle can get multiple touchdowns, again, at 20-1, that's what you're kind of asking for is a multiple touchdown game from Kittle, and Jimmy G is in the maybe low 20s to teens in pass attempts.
Yep.
That's not going to be enough for him to get into the MVP talk. And honestly, Kittle, he has the personality that if the NFL wants to make him the MVP in the face of the Super Bowl, that's not a bad place to go.
That goes into that. Honestly, that plays a factor too, right?
It does. It does. Jimmy G is kind of more. Certainly he's got that quarterback look, but his personality is more reserved in comparison to Kittle.
Yeah, for sure.
I mean, we could say that about a lot of people on the field.
That's also true.
On Sunday. But another person with kind of a big personality would be Bosa. If we are going to see, an under game, maybe a game that's not, that people aren't expecting, where there are going to be a bunch of turnovers. If we can get, Bosa to get a strip sack on Mahomes when he's, dangling that football out there while he's running towards the sidelines, could be, an opportunity for scoop and score. And if that's the turning point in the game, Bosa with maybe a sack or two and that strip sack for a touchdown could be good.
Yeah, and you can get him.
I've seen them at 16-1 at the Superbook, but I've also seen them as high as 20-1.
And again, you're looking for defensive players. I know Malcolm Smith was a very rare example, but you're looking for defensive players with a high profile, right? Guys who have been talked about. Bosa, likely defensive rookie of the year. Voters were talking about him being defensive player of the year. So this type of guy that you want at high odds that the writers and the voters can get behind. So.
Right. This is a Von Miller type situation.
Yeah, exactly. Okay. Final section. People love talking. I think this is what the average person thinks about when we talk about Super Bowl props. They think of the novelty props, Gatorade color. Who will the person thank first after winning MVP? Blah 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 blah. Will J-Lo show butt cleavage? Very popular prop I saw offshore. Moose, any novelty props that you're looking at that actually have a pretty good edge that we can get behind?
Well, I don't know if there's any edge, but I will say huge shout out to the Indiana Gaming Commission for allowing some of these novelty props to be done. Looking here, they allowed you can legally bet on will there be a flea flicker, will a player retire, who will Super Bowl MVP think first, color the Gatorade. So you would never see that.
No.
I thought in a legal sports betting setting. So that's awesome for them. So blue, I guess, for color Gatorade, but. Actual novelty props. William Hill out in Nevada, they have a line: Vegas Golden Knight goals minus 110 over total players with pass attempts. I think really that line is just saying will the Knights score 3 or more goals, which I do like.
Yeah, I like that too because they can score up to 6 goals, 7 goals.
Yeah.
You might also get an empty netter if they're if they're favored. That's not a bad idea because you might get an empty net goal at the end, and there you go. That might push you over.
That's true too. Yeah, I think the line for the game is like 2.5 players with a pass attempt. The under is shaded, so looking pretty good here for that bet. What about you, Mike? Any other novelty props?
Well, I'm going to go back to hockey. The Washington Capitals have traditionally played on Super Bowl Sunday at home, so the Superbook has a prop. Alex Ovechkin shots on goal minus 1.5 versus Mahomes passing touchdowns. Again, we like the under. Damian Williams has scored at least 1 touchdown in every playoff game. So, Mahomes maybe only 2 shots. You need 4 shots, or excuse me, Mahomes maybe only 2 touchdowns. Need 4 shots from Ovechkin. He averages 4.5 shots per game.
Yeah. Well, I mean, Ovechkin, we know him as a goal scorer and high volume of shots on net. So I like that. I like that bet a lot, honestly.
Yeah, in
So,
his last 3 games, he had 8 goals.
so
He's on fire right now, going into the All-Star break.
yeah, pretty decent performance. So, okay.
That's not bad.
Yeah. All right, guys. Any final thoughts? Super Bowl betting, Moose. I'll kick it to you.
I know we talked about how this is like the greatest thing ever, but still stay in control. Bankroll management is key. So don't go take out your 401k to max the Super Bowl.
All right, I will rearrange my plans not to do that. What about you, Mike?
Yeah, I mean, if you're going to be out in Vegas, again, come say hi. I mean, but if you're going to be in one of these states where you can play, take a few bets within your limits. That's a great idea. I guess one more novelty-ish bet, based on we were talking earlier about strategizing based on coaching rather than just a 16 game season. Andy Reid may be first time out.
There you go.
That might not be a bad prop to take as well.
We've seen over his history his misuse of the clock. So it's certainly an opportunity to look for. All right, guys. Yeah. I appreciate you guys joining me. Again, I'm joined here by Moose at CFB_Moose on Twitter. Mike Carey at MC in the DMV 32 also on Twitter. We'll be out in Vegas the Thursday. I think Moose will be out there Wednesday, Thursday before the Super Bowl through Monday. And like I said, if you are out there, hit us up on Twitter, email us, and figure out where we are. Come say hi. If you have questions about Super Bowl props, remember our props guide is available in the Discord channel, our Occupy Discord channel. All you have to do is become an Occupy Twitch subscriber. You can do so for free through Amazon Prime, twitch.tv/Occupy Fantasy. And as always, all of our content, especially DFS related, occupyfantasy.com. I'm Brian Jester. Appreciate everyone listening. And again, do us a favor, click that subscribe button, whether it's in your podcast app or on YouTube. That way you get our latest content directly to your feed. We'd appreciate that. All right, for Moose, for Mike Carey, I'm Brian. Thanks for listening. Good luck in the Super Bowl, and we'll talk to you soon.